them mate 1,000 times for the week that they're together, or the several days that they're together. He's going to be very erect, and she's oftentimes going to be mad afterwards. You may often see the female, the male jump away from the female afterwards in a very, like, I better get out of here sort of way. And that's because he's actually hurting her sometimes. Because he's so strong and he's actually inducing ovulation. So, but they have to do that repeatedly, and that stimulation internally in the female stimulates the ovulation. One of the other fascinating aspects of carnivore reproduction is that some species, in particular the bears and the otters, they can actually delay the implantation of the egg into the uterus. So they may mate in one season, let's say they mate in the summer, for example, but that egg will not actually implant and begin to grow as a future creature until the fall. And this is really fascinating, and this is showing that high attunement to the ecosystem. Because what they're going to do is when they can access mates easily, they're going to breed. But they're not going to actually start the process of growing that future offspring until later, because the timing of that future offspring will then be in the optimal time for that offspring to actually be birthed, such as the spring, when there'll be a bounty of resources available. So it's incredibly fascinating to understand that. The other thing about carnivores is that most, not all, most carnivores give birth to altricial young. So those young are wholly dependent on their parents. They really cannot fend for themselves, they cannot protect themselves, they cannot even keep themselves warm in most cases. They are totally dependent. And as they grow and get more skill, they play together, they are supervised by the parent, they do a lot of learning by watching, by playing, and activating. So here's an example of a fascinating carnivore. These are the painted dogs again, those awesome Mickey Mouse ears that they have. And they give birth to huge families. The litters of painted dogs can be as high as 20 offspring. It's unbelievable. And their families are fascinating. I actually had the privilege to go to Zimbabwe some years ago, and it was amazing to see these animals. Here's another example of the carnivores learning together and being close. So in this case, it's a family of cheetah brothers. And they're, again, going to play together, exercise together, and in the future, they may actually stay together for their entire lives as an alliance, in the case of cheetahs. That's an unusual thing, but it's, again, the importance of that bond and that learning together and play. Carnivore social networking. I got like this baculum or somebody's going to think I'm a weirdo. Social systems do vary by species and highly variable. But they can also vary based on the resources found in a particular location, habitat, or season. So for example, you may see a wolf hunting by itself at certain times of the year, and you may see them hunting as a pack at certain times of the year. You may see a hyena hunting separately or in a pack as well. However, among carnivores, even the most solitary of the species of carnivores, they gotta get together to mate. And they don't use Twitter or Tinder or any of those things. There is a very, again, talking about the importance of learning in carnivores, there's a relatively long period of maternal care for carnivores. They have a whole lot to learn in order to get all the information that they need in order to be able to be self-sufficient. And those crucial behaviors, again, they have to be learned and they have to be practiced by the young. All those behaviors are not innate, and all those memories and things about understanding what's going on in the ecosystem learn. As a result of that, play is a seriously important thing for carnivores, and for the healthy development of the young, and it may also continue into adulthood. So here is one of my favorite examples, is a lion's tail. Well, yeah, probably a lion uses that tail for balance when they're hunting, and a little bit like a rudder. However, it has a toy at the end of it, which is good for spotting flies, but it's also a built-in toy that the parent has that the offspring can play with. Here's another example of the wolves being social as well. They're very famous for their pack bonds, for good reason. Here's some of the carnivores at play in Oz. All of these pictures were actually taken here at the zoo. over the years. So my favorite one is probably that fair one up there. That was 2 of our sun bearer girls. Shortly after they were introduced, and they would often play together, and that was pretty fun to see. It's unusual for sun bears to be together, and we're very fortunate at the zoo we were able to put the female and sun bears together. But that was an example of them sort of staking out territory, but actually playing as adults. Same with the tiger sisters. Again, shortly after they were brought to the zoo, the tiger females that were rescued and brought to the zoo. Here's the otters playing again socially, and the meerkats as well. So if you see that behavior, that's something the visitors really like, if you point that out to them. Not just that they're playing, because they can probably see that, but why play is so important, and that behavior being so important. So now we're going to go into the categories of Feliformia and Caniformia. So first, the felids. So these are, again, in the suborder of Carnivora, and these are the most cat-like of the family. Oops. There are 6 families within Feliformia. Those are the felids, the cats, of course, obvious. The Hyenidae, hyenas and aardwolves are another species of Hyenidae. Herpestidae, the meerkats and the mongooses. Then there's the Viveridae, civets, and Nandinidae. Somebody's better pronouncing that than me, I'm sure. African palm civet is the sole entry in that particular category. And Eucleridae, which is the Malagasy carnivores such as the Fusa that you saw earlier on one of the slides. By the way, there's a Fusa at the Lodi Zoo I just happened to see last weekend. It's amazing to get to see that animal. It's pretty rare to get to see that actual live animal, a Fusa. So let's go to the felids first. So these are really fascinating creatures. I just want to make sure I'm on the right. So the felids are obligate carnivores. So what that means is they gotta eat meat. Their whole system, their whole metabolism is built for eating the flesh of other creatures. They gotta do it. They're not gonna eat Cheerios. They're not gonna go on a vegan diet. They're gonna be carnivores in the sense of being carnivorous. Cats are classified by their vocal capability into different kinds of categories also. There's the roaring cats, like a lion. There's the purring cats, like yours at home, that sometimes sounds like a tractor if you have a snoring purring cat. Or chirping, okay, and the cheetahs are in that category of the chirping cat. They do have the protractile sheath claws that Dick was pointing out to you. That's important because they can have those claws come out when they need them or want them to be out. Most of the felids hunt by ambush. And they're going to kill their prey. Hopefully they're going to kill their prey with their bites. And cats also, because this is such an energetic form of feeding yourself, they're going to spend most of their time in life conserving their energy. So think about the concept of sleepy kitties, right? They're going to play really rambunctiously maybe for an hour, and then they're going to sleep for 3. That's kind of the way it works for humans. And this is an excellent photograph. Dick actually took this photograph. I love it. It's one of our zoo tigers sleeping. And when you see that, you can point out why it's so important for carnivores to be sleeping a lot. So the visitors aren't bored that the cat's not, quote unquote, doing anything. It's like, oh yes it is. It's saving up its energy. So, then I'm going to turn it over to Dick, and he's going to talk to you about our lions.
This slide, do you hear me?
Yes.
This slide is filled with information, so I'll give it to you slowly. They, as you already heard, are apex predators and keystone species in the sub-Saharan African savanna and scrub. Curiously, the hyena is also an apex predator in that same region. They are gender dimorphic Of course, that means that the male and the female have differences. One of the big differences is their size. The male is about 100 pounds heavier than the female. The male, of course, has a mane, and the female does not. The male's fur coat is a little bit darker than the female's. So there are ways in the distance to distinguish these animals rather readily. If you see a male lion with a very full mane, you can be assured that is a very healthy animal. The females do the hunting. They do it as a team. They might form a circle and converge on the prey, or they might form a long line. They might chase the prey from one female to the next. Then she takes over and sprints, chasing to the third and on to the fourth. They have to do that because I said before, they are sprinters. They don't have long durability when they're running. They are not always successful. They only make a correct kill, if you want to use that word, about 1 in every 20 times. So they're really not efficient in that way. They do obtain food by another route, and that's called opportunistic feeding. So they may see circling vultures, and they deduct that there's a kill in the distance, and they move to that area, and hyenas have made a kill, and they brush the hyenas away, and they eat. That's called opportunistic feeding. 50% of their meat is opportunistic. They prefer to hunt and to really be awake during the early hours of the day, and also some of them are awake during the night. Crepuscular means twilight. It's the Latin for twilight. So they like to be awake when the sun is coming up, and also when the sun is going down. That's crepuscular. But they do roam at night, and we'll talk about that. They communicate by olfaction. They spray from usually the urine on the ground, on trees, and then they have a flamen reaction, which you may remember. They smell with their mouth, and I'll show you pictures of that in a moment. They also communicate by sound. They have the loudest, longest traveling sound of any animal. It is because their voice box, their larynx, their hyoid bone is ossified. It's not cartilage. And so it vibrates more. And a lion, especially the male lion, can be heard 5 miles away. They have a social unit called a pride. And they are the only cat that has a pride. A pride usually consists of 2 to 3 males, 5 to 7 females, and the rest are cubs. There have been prides as large as 35 animals. I told you the female's assignment is to find food. The male's assignment is to defend and protect them. Believe it or not, they're fairly good fathers to their cubs. But if cubs from another pride come by, they will be eaten by the male. These animals are extremely vulnerable. As Cindy said, they are altricial, and so they are very vulnerable. I feel very sorry for the cubs, because for every 5 born, only 1 reaches its first birthday. So that's a high loss of life. Who are threatening the lions? One is they still are poached, some for trophies, some for thrills. They have retributive killings, and they have habitat loss. The habitat loss is because so much of the population is increasing in size, and they are moving into the territory of the lion. Retributive killing means that they have worked their way into a village, and they have killed the livestock. So the tribesmen get together, they go out, find and kill that lion in retribution. This is just a picture of a male with his mane. It's not a very large mane, and 2 females with him. The cubs also look similar to those females in their coloring. Now the upper left is a lion yawning. He's not doing the flamen reaction or the flamen face. This is the flamen face. Now Cindy wants me to demonstrate that to you. However, it's kind of messy and it's disgusting. So I'm not going to demonstrate. But let me show you on that slide. What he's doing is curling his upper lip upward and backward. That causes the front teeth to be shown and the gums. It also seals off his nasal airway. Then he opens his mouth wide. He then extends his tongue over the lower teeth and out of the mouth. And then he positions his head either, depending on what he's smelling. If he's smelling urine on a tree, he positions his head straight ahead. If he's just trying to see what's in the air, he may extend his head upward toward the sky. So that's a flamen reaction, or a flamen face. What he's doing is inhaling air, and he holds that position for several seconds. The articles, the chemicals in that air, find their way to the roof of the mouth, to something you know about called the gland of Jacobson. Do you remember that in the snakes? Well, we have the same bony opening. Even you and I have it, although ours is not functional. But these animals, it's functional, and it goes into that little duct, and the chemicals are interpreted by the nerves, and that sensory information goes to the brain. To my surprise, many animals have flamen face. The giraffes have it, dogs and cats have it, horses have it, even the elephants have a modified flamen face. I don't have time to describe it, but at halftime, if you want to know more, I'll be happy to tell you. But that is very distinctive flamen face. Oop, how did we ever get to that? Pardon me, I'll go back. Oh no. Can you help me?
I think we got to scroll back through the whole presentation again.
That's a long way to go back.
Can you scroll on the far right?
Is it?
The back button.
She's not here. Can I take this for a moment? I can talk while you work.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for all these technical problems. Actually, I've come to the end of the lion presentation. So now, Cindy will tell you about the Bengal tiger. I truly did come to the end of the presentation.
We're almost there. So the Bengal tiger is a tiger from, again, is an apex predator, right? And it's also a keystone species in the Asian jungles where it lives. It also lives in open woodlands, forests, and in mangrove forests. It is an Asian cat. It is not an African cat. Hunting is pretty challenging for tigers. They are, unlike the lions, they're solitary. So they have to make the kill not with a bunch of friends, but they have to make the kill by themselves.